Here. Stand by for the news and tonight's Spotlight Report, an interview with Sal Mineo on the Tough Guy Talk.
11 o'clock, and time for the Schottelkotte News, brought to you tonight and every night with the H&S Pope Company, Cincinnati's quality department stores downtown and the Kenwood Plaza. And by Zenith and Norge, two great names in quality products for the home. And now, with the news, here's Al Schottelkotte, featured columnist of the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Good evening. Cincinnati's Neil McElroy and the elaborate coming-out party of Henry Ford's daughter have come in for sharp rebuke from California's Governor Edmund Brown. Brown asserted that our Secretary of Defense resigned his post to return to a high-salaried post as head of a soap company. And that's more important than our defenses. Something's wrong with our values. B&G boss McElroy is out of town. One of his aides said McElroy had urgent personal reasons for resigning other than financial. The aide said he didn't believe that McElroy was disposed to get into any further detail than he did when he stepped out. Brown said of the family of Henry Ford II, if this is the frivolous way in which the owners of wealth exercise their custodianship, spend $250,000 on a spectacle, ought we not find revenue laws that would divert such surpluses to saner uses? Brown made his remarks in a speech in California. The federal grand jury in the Mississippi Mac Charles Parker lynch case is recessed after deliberating 5 hours on whether to indict those in the mob that murdered Parker last spring. A Mississippi grand jury had ignored that case. Here's Todd Hunter for Zenith.
Zenith means quality, and believe me, this quality is built into all their products. For example, any one of these fine Zenith radios. Now, this is the Zenith Royal Transistor Radio. Small enough to carry around, but big enough for that Zenith sound. The Zenith Clock Radio, the radio that awakens you pleasantly. The Zenith AM/FM Table Radio, virtually static-free to assure you of the best in radio entertainment. The Zenith AM Table Radio, the finest low-priced radio built. Great for the kids' room, fine kitchen companion, too. And has a special provision for earphones for private listening or for folks that are a little hard of hearing. And the Zenith Deluxe Transoceanic, a super radio that tunes you into foreign countries as easily as it brings in local stations. All Zenith, all quality radios, because with Zenith, the quality goes in before the name goes on. Now, these are just a few of the many fine Zenith radios now being featured at Pogue's special prices. That's Pogue, 6th floor appliance department downtown and the Kenwood Plaza. Remember, more Cincinnatians buy Zenith than any other radio.
Another recent page one name figured in the court news in Cincinnati today, Mrs. Pauline Van Dam, who shot a boyfriend in her Westwood apartment, the one with a hidden tape recorder, agreed through her attorney to give up, at least temporarily, rights to visit her former husband's home and see her 2 children. Frank Van Dam, here with his attorney, claims she's unfit to see them. Mrs. Van Dam's attorney, Samuel Rubenstein, said he didn't want this point argued while the shooting case was pending. After years of ignoring the subject, Cincinnati City Hall today took the first definite step toward the building of a convention hall. Mayor Donald Clancy named Joe Turner, the head of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, to head the committee assigned the job of deciding exactly what the city needs to stay in the convention business competition. The City Health Center on 12th Street had an unusual visitor today. Penelope, the Cincinnati Zoo's prized female gorilla, was brought in for a chest x-ray. Penelope wasn't exactly overjoyed at the procedure as she arrived with zoo veterinarians. In fact, for a while, she screamed for a friendly tree or something, but she found it painless, even wound up applauding for somebody.
And now, here's tonight's Spotlight Report.
There's a movie premiere scheduled for tomorrow night at the Valley Theater, the Gene Krupa story it's called. The subject and the actor who portrays the drummer arrived today for a personal appearance. Sal Mineo handles the role. He's shown with Krupa today at their hotel suite. A recent magazine article depicted Mineo as a real young mobster in his growing up days in New York. And Jim Harper took the occasion to ask Mineo himself.
Sal, there was quite a bit of controversy over a Post story that you had grown up in a tough area of New York and had been a member of street gangs. Is this true?
Well, let's put it this way. I did grow up in a fairly tough neighborhood, but sometimes, you know, stories seem to let's say, exaggerate certain points. And you can't help these things, you know. It was a fairly rough neighborhood, but I was never associated with gang warfare or things like that, or knife fights. At one point, I had heard that I had learned how to use a switchblade in the Bronx, and this is why I was a success in pictures, which is so far-fetched. I did have to learn how to play the drums for a picture. I did have to learn how to use a switchblade for a picture, but not in true life.
You never participated then in the so-called street gang activities?
Well, sure. I mean, as far as baseball was always out on the street, you know, we didn't have playgrounds where I lived, or gymnasiums. It was out on the street. Naturally, you get the usual fist fights, but I never had a knife battle or anything like that.
Because of your background, where you came from, do you find once in a while a tough kid as you travel across the country who maybe wants to try you for size, or do they treat you pretty decent?
Well, naturally, in the beginning, there's always the feeling I have played tough guys in pictures, and it's a compliment to me when someone says, all right, so you're a tough guy, let's see how tough you are, because it means that they really believe my performance. But I will say this, after I do get to know the people, that it's no longer that same feeling, it's a friendship.
These street gangs and youngsters in New York who grew up in areas that you did, Sal, what does the average boy have to look forward to when he grows up? You're sort of an exception, but what does the average boy have to look forward to?
Well, fortunately in America, there's so much to look forward to, and I think I'm one of the examples. I had a tremendous ambition, and I don't think if I were in any other country could I have accomplished what I have. But so there's so much to look forward to in this country.
So much for the movies. Time for the sports. Jack Moran.
The word Billiken, according to Mr. Webster, means a symbol of good cheer. But for the first half tonight, it meant bad news for the Bearcats. UC won 79-57 to make it 13 straight, Oscar Robertson dropping in 27 points. St. Louis, normally a running club, baffled UC in the first half with a control-type game. But the second half, the Cats broke the game wide open and won going away. The game ended less than 1 hour ago, and chief photographer Frank Jones and myself grabbed St. Louis coach John Bennington just before he entered the clubhouse to read the riot act to his charges. And we asked what happened in that second half.
What's seen it go wrong in the second half? I think they scored too many points.
Do you plan to alter your defense when you meet them over there in St. Louis?
No, I don't think we'll alternate our defense at all, no. We have a little bit better luck at home with our defense sometimes than we have on the road.
Well, Bob, John, I sure want to thank you ever so much, and good luck to you.
Thank you. Best of luck, Cincinnati. We enjoy playing here.
All right,
I only got him one more time.
To whom he was referring, the Big O. In the annual Associated Press poll today, Syracuse University was named the Team of the Year for 1959. Baseball back in the news again. Bob Perkey signed his 1960 contract today with the Reds. That's Bob with Assistant General Manager Paul Florence. Bob's aiming for 18 wins this season. Frank Thomas, a former Redleg, signed his contract with the Chicago Cubs today, and Robin Roberts signed his with the Phils. Billy Wheelu of St. Louis holds a slim lead in that all-star bowling tournament over in Omaha. Al, you know, the NCAA Rules Committee has eased that substitution rule somewhat.
Right, one substitution, no.
Anytime.
Anytime. You're not penalized.